Yo guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you've never been here before. So I've jumped on today to do my pre-market analysis, and this will be the pre-market analysis for the week commencing the 14th of March 2022. So before I do actually get started presenting my analysis, I will just draw your guys' attention to the written version of this forecast, and the written version of this forecast will be available in the video description, and that will show pretty much everything that I'm going to be talking about in this video, but just in the written format. So if you guys do want to reference that, then just check out the link in the video description. And if you are grateful for these videos, then please do subscribe to the channel, guys, and I'm really happy to have you here. So let's get started with the forecast. Alright, so starting Nzdusd. So Nzdusd, we're still in the same daily structure as last week. We've had the breaker structure, which gives us our bearish bias, and from the daily perspective, we've got this order block up here, which is a clear institutional supply zone because it caused that whole move and grabbed liquidity above this whole consolidation here. So looking from the daily perspective, we have basically retraced back up into this supply zone, and then we've now failing to close above it. So for me, looking from a daily perspective, the sell thesis is still valid, and we're still respecting this clear supply zone that was created by the institutions on the daily time frame. So for me, if I'm just looking from the daily, what I'm really expecting is for price to now just start to move away from this supply zone here, and as the supply comes back into the market, we'll see price come down to break the structure again at the low down here. So from a daily perspective on NU, it's just a case of looking to take sells from this area up here, and we can target the daily low to create a new low there. So that's the higher time frame bias and the higher time frame expectation from me that we will be seeing that bearish move coming through on the daily. That said, however, looking at the lower time frames, so firstly we can just look at the 12-hour. On the 12-hour, we've broken structure, and we're basically within the range from this low here to this high here. So in terms of what's going on with this bullish move here, we have actually got this whole range from which price could continue bullish. So even though within the higher time frame we've got a sell thesis invalidation point up here, really on the 12-hour we've actually got this buy thesis invalidation as well. So whilst I do think that the daily will hold more weight, and I am more in favour of that wholesale move, I'm still aware that we've got this whole bullish range here, and we've got clear demand here, and as I'll show in a minute here. And as you'll see later, that this impulsive move here actually does tie up with the structure on AUD/USD, which is heavily correlated with Nzdusd. So whilst we do have that overall daily sell structure, I think we need to be aware of this buy structure which exists on the 12-hour down to the 4-hour time frame. So looking at it in terms of the 12-hour, I will just mark off this area down here because, you know, we have got this imbalance there, and within the 12-hour, that is the order block that caused that whole impulsive bullish move. So until we violate this area, we can't really be certain that it's going to go down. Now, looking at the 4-hour, however, what we've got is the 4-hour low is here. So for me, if this bullish thesis is just going to continue, I'm really going to expect it to just continue with the 4-hour. So looking at this actual move, what we've had is price has pushed up from this area here. So this is where the institutional orders are. And then we're now retracing back into it. So from a 4-hour perspective, I think it's absolutely fine to look for buys out of this area. If we do get price coming into here, then showing signs of rejection, to go for buys. We know that there was institutional action, institutional orders taking place in this area, so I think it's absolutely fine for us to buy out of there. And then again, same thing could be said down here as well, because that's where the 12-hour structure originated from. Now, with all that said though, we have to remember that the daily is the higher time frame, so it does hold more weight in theory. So really, what we should be on the lookout for still is sell opportunities. So for me, I will be following the 1 hour structure, looking for sell opportunities to then follow through with that daily thesis. But at the same time, I am aware of these bullish order blocks, and if we do start to see price action rejecting these bullish order blocks, showing a bullish structural transition on the 15-minute and on the 1 hour, then I will be happy to take opportunities that come out of these order blocks for buys. So for me on NU this week, we're looking for sell opportunities continuing away from this major supply here. But then if we do respect this demand here, or if we respect this demand here, then I will also be looking for buy opportunities out of those areas to then target new highs relative to the 4 hour and the 12-hour time frames. So that's NU this week, and yeah, unfortunately it can't be more clear because at the minute we're not really sure if price is going to follow through with the daily thesis or if it's going to be following through with this whole bullish structure here. But as always, I give more weight to high time frame, so if I had to put my bets either way, I'd say the daily is probably better, but it's not worth just ignoring the other time frames, because if we do see this bullish structure play out, then it could continue for quite a while, so it's worth being aware of the bullish structure as well. Alright, so moving on to AU. Now, so the thing with AU, this is what really adds more confidence to the whole bullish situation on NZD/USD. So on AU, on the daily time frame, we were looking previously at a clear bearish bias, but then we've had this bullish intent, which has impulsively broken the bearish structure. So at this point now, until we get below this daily low here, we are really anticipating buys to come into the market to follow through with this leg of price here. So we've got break structure, retracement, and then continuing up just like that. So looking at the actual daily structure, the whole order block is within this candle here. And if we look at the 4 hour, like I discussed last week, we've got the imbalance starting there. So for me, I'd like to see price dipping to fill the imbalance, tap into this demand zone here, and then we can look for them buys away from that. Now, in the meantime, I wouldn't be surprised to see some bearish price action, because obviously if we're going to come back down here, we're going to have to see some bearish price action. And also, it's worth just being aware that on the higher time frame, the 2-day, we are still actually in a bearish bias. So even though we are anticipating that price is going to react from this demand zone to then go bullish, it is possible that that won't happen, and any type of structures that are bringing us down to this area may just continue through. So that's why for me this week, I will be looking for buys out of this daily. But before that, what I'm going to be doing is just following the hourly structure. Now, I'm not going to forecast too much, because with the hourly, it can change quite quickly relative to when this forecast comes out. But what I will be aware of is opportunities to sell on the hourly, following down into this area, and then also being aware that price doesn't have to respect this area, and that could allow us to take a larger swing position to continue through this area. So yeah, AU this week, we're looking for buys following the daily time frame, but then I'm also happy to take sells back down to that area using the hourly time frame if my trading plan's met and my trading criteria is met. Alright, so let's move on to euro dollar. So euro dollar, the structure didn't actually change too much from the last forecast that I did. So on the daily, we've got this daily high here, and then the daily low is down here. So we're in a clear bearish bias because we had 2 consecutive bearish breaks of structure, and we've now got our current trading range on the daily, which gives us our sell thesis invalidation point. So within this whole daily range, we know that we're bearish bias, so what we need to do is look for the supply zones. Now, just staying on the daily time frame, I can see that we've got a clear order block, a clear supply zone up here, which is where this imbalance starts. So in terms of what's possible in this trading range, if price came up away from there and then came back into this daily supply zone before continuing down, that would make a lot of sense, and that would also continue the bearish order flow that exists from this price action up here. That said, however, it is quite a deep retracement. We're going to have to travel 350 pips counter trend to get to that area, and looking at the current price action and considering what's going on around the world with Ukraine and stuff, we could just see the impulsive bearish price action continue. So considering that, I think it makes sense to consult the hourly time frames to look for some supply zones that are closer to the current price than that one up there. So looking at the 12-hour, we've got this supply zone here. So this supply zone actually broke the daily structure. So it could even be the argument could even be made that the trading range is more relevant from here to here. So considering that, I think if we do get up into this area, then absolutely it wouldn't be surprising if we just see price start to sell off from there, because that is what actually caused this whole break structure, and we've got the imbalance there. So this is another clear supply zone within the daily trading range what we could look for sells out of. So for me, if we do get back up here, I'll also be looking for sells out of there, and if we see that, 15-minute, 1 hour structural transition, I'll happily be taking sells away from this area. Now, what's also clear that I'm aware of is what's currently happening is we're actually reacting off this 3-hour supply zone here. So we had this 3-hour order block, so this candle here, which caused that whole move down, and then we've got this refinement with imbalance. Now, price is actually reacting off this order block pretty cleanly, and it's come straight out of here to then start to move down. So for me, it's possible that price is just going to continue impulsively now to then form new structures away from this order block. So with the euro dollar, what I'm really seeing is 3 potential situations. So the first situation, and that's what we're seeing the most evidence of right now, is that price is reacting off this 3-hour order block to then just continue the downtrend, and it will just continue creating new structures until we see that trend transition. So what we can expect is that this order block will hold, and then we'll just continue to see price coming down. Now, alternatively, and looking at the 2-hour, what we can see, so on the 2-hour, we've had this impulsive bullish move here, and the structure's broke, but I've not marked it on. So we basically had the break structure there, which was caused by this demand area here. So in terms of the reaction off there, it's still possible, because we've not violated this yet, it's still possible that we're gonna basically react off this demand zone and then continue higher to then take us up to these other areas. So if we do see this demand zone respected, then we could potentially see buys coming up into the market to take us into either this 12-hour supply zone that I discussed or the more extreme daily supply zone that I discussed. And alternatively to those situations where we continue higher before reacting from these supply areas, it's also possible that we will just continue downwards, violate this structure, and then at that point I would expect us to break the whole structure again, which should then present us with a nice order block to take sales away from. So for example, if we did just continue straight through, then maybe this will be the new order block, and we can look to sell away from there following this 3-hour order flow. So EU, I think we're in a pretty clear overall bearish bias, but if we do respect this point of interest, then we could have that counter trend bullish move up into one of these 2 supply zones. Alternatively, I do expect that we will just see the break of structure, and then we can look for another order block to sell from. And yeah, if we do end up into receive a 12-hour or daily order block, then we can look for sells out of there. So I guess there's pretty much 4 opportunities really coming this week on EU for me. So we've got the overall retracement into the daily. We've got the smaller retracement into the 12-hour, and we can look to sell from either of them zones if we get them structural transitions on the lower time frame. What we've also got is the potential counter trend. So if we are expecting price to go up to these areas, then a potential counter trend out of this area does seem sensible. I mean, for me, I'm not super excited about that, but if we do see that coming on the 15-minute, on the 1 hour, then I may look to take that. And then if this supply zone doesn't hold, I'll expect a new break of structure, which will give us a new order block, and we can look to sell away from that new order block following this 3-hour order flow which is developing. So that's a this week, guys. I mean, there is quite a few opportunities there, but I do think that from the current information on the chart, that's most likely one of them probabilities is going to play out, possibilities is going to play out. Alright, so we'll move on to pound dollar, a bit more simple. So pound dollar, we've seen that first break of structure bearish, and now we've seen the second break of structure bearish. So we know for a fact that we're in bearish bias on pound dollar until we see this high broken here. So for me now, all I'm really interested in is a retracement back up to this order block, which caused the break of structure, and then we can just look for sells out of the order block. So for me, I'll anticipate a break of retracement early in the week. Then we can just look to continue price to break structure again, following with this overall impulsive downtrend which seems to be taking place at the minute. So in terms of other order blocks that price could potentially go from, I'm still aware that our overall sell thesis invalidation at this moment in time is up here. So within that whole range, we've still got this order block up here, and we've still also got this order block here. But for me, I think what's important right now is just simply this 4-hour high here. So if we do violate, then we can start looking at these areas up here to see how price reacts. But going into the week, the only thing I'm interested in on pound dollar is how price is going to react from this area here. And if we do see that reaction coming in, hopefully we can catch a nice move away from it. So that's pound dollar for this week. So the euro pound. So last week on euro pound, I didn't actually check the weekly structure, but I just went off a 2-day. Now the 2-day structure, the actual high was on this candle here, and what we can see is price has actually respected this high. So for me, we're still very much in this bearish bias, and price has actually respected even the 2-day bias there. So for me now, it will make sense for price to just continue going short, and I will look for continuation short on euro pound away from the order block that's on the 2-day there. But in terms of the actual structure overall, I do think at the minute it's more clear on the weekly, just because we've got this new leg of weekly structure that's developed. So we've got this new weekly structure, which is from this high here down to this low here. Now we're just continuing with this overall idea of price moving lower following this downtrend. Then on the weekly, we've got this clear order block, which actually had imbalance on it before it got filled. And now I'm just expecting price to come away from this order block and to respect this high here. So going into next week, what I'm going to just be looking for is either, we'll come higher into the order block and then we can continue down, or we literally just continue going down from this reaction here. So euro pound, definitely bearish bias, and I'll be looking for sells following the hourly structure away from this area. Also, just on the higher time frame, like I spoke about the last few weeks, we have got this order block down here. So that bullish order block has clear imbalance above it as well, and that's on the weekly time frame. So there's a clear reason for price to continue coming down until we get into this area, and then we can expect some more demand in the market. So for me, 100% I'm on bearish bias for euro pound this week, but let's see what happens when the week kicks off. And finally, pound yen. It's literally not changed from last week in terms of these higher time frames. So on the daily, we have had that bullish break of structure there. This order block, it still hasn't been tapped into. So for me, we've still got reason to come lower overall. When we do get into that order block there, I wouldn't be surprised to see the demand coming into the market, and then we can take price higher because we do also have a lot of liquidity up here. Plus, we are in an overall uptrend. So from that daily perspective, I think it makes sense for price to respect this order block. So I will be watching that area to look for buys. But in the shorter term, I'm expecting sells because obviously if we're going to come down there, we're going to have to sell down there. And looking at the 4-hour structure, we've currently broken structure here. So we've got our high up here with a clear order block which has imbalance, and then we've got the low down there. So in terms of what's happening right now on pound yen, I'll just be looking to take this sell position away from there. And then when we do get into this area here, we can look for potential demand coming into the market to then reverse this 4-hour structure. But also, if we are going to see the continued downtrend on the pound dollar, then it's possible that pound yen will also just continue with the 4-hour structure in a downtrend and completely reverse this whole thing here. So guys, that's it for the forecast today. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and gotten value out of it. If you do want to see the written version, then just click the links in the description. And if you want to check out some trading psychology resources or where I learned this strategy from, then please also check out the other links that I've got in the description. So thank you very much for watching, guys. If you're grateful for this content, then please subscribe. And I hope you guys all follow your trading plans and have a great and safe trading week. Thank you very much, guys.